Howdy folks, Timber Drifter here, standing outside my folks' yard where I'm camping out in the old canvas wedge tent. Figure since it's not raining, and it has been lately, and it's about to start again, see if I could get a video shot here. But I've been staying in this tent for I don't know, over a week now. But you can see my cot there with a blanket and various items on there. Sort of a chair. Let's go in and have a look. Got my tote with my sleeping bag on top of it, all my good stuff inside of it, a chair to sit in, rug on the floor, bunk with a bunch of stuff laid out on it. There we go. I got my little lawn table here with books and various things, and little solar lantern and basket that I put my dirty pipes in till I clean them. There we go. So, first off, I'll say the last video I made where I was walking the dog up on top of the hill right out here, talking about Dad having some health problems and things, and he's doing pretty good. So we're moving ahead with everything. Still moving my folks, helping my folks move back to Kansas, and so as we've been, going through things in the house and getting stuff packed up, and the movers already hauled a bunch of stuff out. I've come across a lot of things, some of them from my early teen years and later on. When I was, my early teen years, when I was getting into what, everybody now calls bushcraft. Various items, just learning the backwoodsy stuff, and learning how to sharpen things, and playing with axes and tomahawks and black powder guns and all that. I've found a few artifacts of my youth, we'll put it that way. And then a few other things from when I lived out here in PA back in, I think, 2002, 3, and 4. I was here about 2 years total. So I'll just show you a few of the things I've come across. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to have some Doc's Draft hard cider, pear hard apple cider. I guess it's apple cider with pear in it, I guess, which doesn't quite make it a perry, but produced and bottled by Warwick Valley Wine Co. Inc., Pine Island, New York. It's got a quote from T.S. Eliot on one side: "Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go." And I say, we grow apples, we know cider. It's pretty good cider. I like it. It's funny, I'm not nearly as picky about beer as I am cider. I'm quite happy to drink cheap beer most of the time, but get a little picky about cider. This is pretty good. Here we go. It's a little sweet for my taste, but it's not cloyingly sweet like some of the other ones I won't name. My old tamper I use all the time, you just watch me pop a cap with that off this bottle here. That 4570 has quite a thick rim. Works well for lifting caps. So, alright, we'll get right into it here. While going through some stuff in the basement, I found a couple tins of tobacco that date pretty far back for me. One of them this is a tobacco I used to smoke a long time ago. Probably 2002. I think these came from one of the major drugstores, and I don't think they carry them anymore. It wasn't that good of tobacco to begin with, but I thought it was. It was pretty mellow and had a nice vanilla flavor. It's actually still in decent shape, and it still smells really good. But I've got some loaded in this cob here. It's not that it tastes bad after however many years that is of aging. It's 2017 now, and I probably bought this in 02. It's just that it doesn't taste like much of anything at all. It just tastes like a mild, very mild Cavendish with a hint of vanilla. Not really my thing, but certainly not offensive, and it does smell good. So I'll put that down for now, and I'll show you the other tin, which I was kind of excited about. So I'm thinking this one probably is from around 2006 or 7. Malt House Founders Reserve from Dan Tobacco. I can't find any dates on the tin anywhere to know exactly, but I know that I went through a couple tins of this stuff a long time ago, and I'm thinking it was probably around that time. This was a sealed tin, but it had been in the basement, and you can see there was quite a lot of rust around the rim there. You can see the rust in the seal. So it wasn't airtight, but the tobacco was actually in reasonably good shape. It's actually only dried out since I brought it out here in the tent. It wasn't dry when I got it out of the basement, and there's no mold present on the tobacco. I've looked at it pretty close. And you can hear it, it's pretty dry. It wasn't that dry when I opened it, but I've had 3 or 4 bowls out of here, 4 bowls out of here. And although I like this tobacco, and I liked it 10 years ago when I used to smoke it, there's something about that Virginia that burns me. So I have to be just super careful when I smoke it. Smoke it very slow. And nothing's changed. It still bites me. But it tastes good. It smells great and it tastes good. Smoking that in the old cob that's probably roughly from the same vintage, 10 years or a little bit more. It's quite a nice tobacco actually, and this cob I notice and I've known for a long time, and the reason it's still around is because it for whatever reason, this cob reduces bite in Virginia tobaccos for me. I can smoke this tobacco in this pipe without much of any bite at all. Whereas if I load up a briar, it's going to get me. Anyway, I do like it. And it's kind of neat to run across something that old. I have no idea how that 10 got left behind here. But a while back also, before I came out here, I made a video talking about a tomahawk that I'd made a long time ago and recently rehabbed and reshaped and made a new handle for it. And in that video I talked a little bit about my beginnings and my sort of love affair with tomahawks, and how my original tomahawk that my dad had bought for me when I was a kid, I'd given it back to him, and he's used it all these years. And this is it. It's probably on its 4th handle, maybe. This one never got thrown all that much. And it's got some of his modifications done to it. I'm going to say it's probably got close to an inch sharpened off of the blade at this point. And it's back into where it's soft. It's sharpened right past the hardening, so there's some dings in the edge that need to be cleaned up. And I might try rehardening this at some point. Because the handle is too small, standard size tomahawk, Dad wrapped it in leather, and it's worked well for him that way. But this is my original tomahawk that I had when I was a little kid, probably 8 or 9 years old, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood when I got this, maybe a little younger. So it's kind of neat to run across that again, and I'll fix it up for him if I can. Some of the other stuff I ran across that was kind of neat was, before I ever smoked pipes, I made corncob pipes when I was 13, 14, 15. I've always been a pipe smoker, I just didn't start smoking till much later. Anyway, this is one that I made. I was probably 15 when I made this. And it's just a piece of field corn with a stem. You can see it's never been smoked. It was just crazy to run across that. Yeah. Anyway. A couple other things. I've been sharpening knives. Sharpening knives has been a passion of mine, or anything with them you can put an edge on, really, since I was a kid. And I learned, although my dad taught me the basics, and he sharpens differently than I do, he taught me the basics, and I just learned on my own. And one of the stones that I learned from a lot was this, which came from a pretty good sized old grinding wheel, one of the pedal power grinders. I found one that was broken at an old homestead site when I was 15 probably, and hauled it out of the woods, broke it up with other rocks and hauled pieces out of the woods, and this is the one I made a stone out of. I used to sharpen everything on this for my rough stone. So I was just, when I saw this and picked it up, I had completely forgotten about this, and just flooded with memories picking up this old stone. And something else that came from that old homestead was this old scythe blade or sickle blade. It's just amazing to me that this thing is still around. I had no memory of it until I saw it, and I remembered it quite clearly. I also came across an old hatchet that I used to use. This was my favorite hatchet for a very long time as a kid and a teenager. And this is the hatchet that I really learned about chopping with. Just an old carpenter's hatchet with a nail puller and a little pole on it. Between the tomahawk and this, and then acquiring quite a few big knives, bowie knives, and kukris, and various other things. But this was, that tomahawk and this were kind of the beginning of my education of axes and hatchets and things. So it was just neat to run across it. And I'm going to make sure I get home with this. I also went through a ton of knives as a kid. I was always getting something and trying it out for a while and moving on. And I found a box of knives that I had no idea was still in existence. When I moved from Kansas at the age of 18, I took all the knives I didn't want to keep, which was a lot of them, put them in a box and took them to the gold and silver pawn shop in my hometown. And in my memory, I sold all of them. But as I ran across kind of a box of random junk knives, I remembered that I hadn't sold all of them. They didn't want all of them, the other ones I brought home, and somehow they just ended up in my parents' stuff this whole time, and I haven't seen them since then. I'm not going to show you all those knives because most of them aren't interesting. They're just junk. But like touching the stone, when I saw them, I was just, flooded with all these memories. And the one that was, it's a knife that I've thought about a lot over the years because I really liked this knife when I was a kid. It's made by United. It's just a cheap dagger. I used to actually carry this thing when I was a kid, and I tried using it for all kinds of stuff. And this knife taught me a lot of things about what's not good in a knife, what you don't want in a knife. But I still have a fond place for it in my heart. It's funny thinking back to think I actually carried stuff like this, and Bowie knives and like inside the waistband concealment sheaths that I made myself after reading articles in American Survival Guide and Tactical Knives magazine and stuff like that when I was like 12. Strange. Anyway, I'll probably see if I can get this one home too, and it'll go in the permanent collection. Some of you that are the same vintage as I am probably knife nuts remember things like this. I never see anything like this now, or not much like it anyway. Another one from the same era, and I bought 2 of these. The old junk hollow handle survival knives. This is the surviving one. The other one is long gone. And you can see I didn't really use this one much. This was the good one. The other one I beat the hell out of and destroyed it. Black carbon, Taiwan. Leader. It actually is carbon steel. For once, they're not lying about that. It would rust. And this came with like a fishing kit and 3 matches or something inside of it. And it was funny to me that they went to the trouble to put an O-ring on this cap when, I don't know if you'll be able to see it here. Probably not. A little bit. You can actually see daylight on either side of the bolt on the inside, so the O-ring's not really doing a whole lot. Maybe keeping the threads tight. But I had a handful of these by different makers, this kind of knife. And I ended up buying 2 of these. I think I ordered them with a money order out of American Survival Guide when I was a kid. These don't have sheet metal blades. They're probably cast, but they actually held up pretty well, and it took me a while to destroy the other one. I'm not too enamored of hollow-handled survival knives today. Actually, I had, pretty stout sheath. It's not leather, it's fake leather. It came with a sharpening stone that actually abraded metal. So, just cheap shit. Good stuff for kids to play with and hopefully survive childhood. And I had a lot of knives like this too, and I'll be trying to get that home with me. That's just an old forge craft. Good little knives. But then there was junk like this, and I don't remember if this one was a gift or if I bought it, but I loved stuff like this when I was a kid. Oh my. I think it's probably it's cheap. It's probably a cheap copy of a Gil Hibben something or other. It's just silliness. Wouldn't even make a very efficient weapon. But I loved shit like that when I was a kid. This I probably won't be hanging on to. Let me see what else have I got here that I wanted to show you. One of my old throwing axes I found and made a handle for this out of a broken splitting maul handle. I put that on while I was here. It's a super heavy duty thing. This isn't for chopping, and the head's actually relatively soft. It's just for throwing. And I used to throw tomahawks and axes for fun and competition. It was neat to run across that. I don't know if I'll take that home or not. But one of the other things that I found that I'm going to switch pipes here. I've got a little Dunhill London mixture in my Tom Corral timber drifter pipe. So anyway, I've just been running across a lot of stuff like that. It's very humid. Very humid right now. Not the best smoking weather, but it'll work. I guess the one of my favorite pipes by far, excellent smoker, Tom Carell. So another interesting thing that I came across is my old cartridge belt. It's pretty worn out. The elastic's all worn out. Held a 12 gauge, although it might be a little sloppy for that now. As a kid, when I used to wander the woods with my single shot 12 gauge, this was the belt I tended to carry. And I really did put a knife and matches and compass in those pockets. This was fairly old when I got it, but it's interesting to see the age on it now, how the things are cracking. These were rubberized and they're kind of cracking now. And this is worn out, and it wasn't when I was a kid. It's interesting to run across the items of your youth. So this trip's been a bit of a whirlwind in various ways, emotionally and others. Lots happened. I've seen a lot of my old stuff. I've been put under a good deal of stress, various other, things, but everything's fine for now. And it's been interesting handling all this old stuff. And deciding what to throw away and what to keep, and I'm throwing most of it away. Don't need it. All right. Well, take care, folks. Go outside.